Hey guys, MCU Collector here with another figure review. Next up is the Hasbro Marvel Legends series, the Avengers 60 Years of Earth's Mightiest. This is, of course, the Beyond Earth's Mightiest 60th anniversary of the Avengers. This is the 5-pack box set exclusive to Amazon. This is the West Coast Avengers. I don't know if we would actually consider this as part of the Avengers program. I think so, because the box style and everything is actually very similar. And at the top of the box, it has that Avengers 60 Years of Earth's Mightiest logo on there. The box is quite large, so I'm not really sure that I can really show that in this video. It's pretty cool stuff. But link in the video description below to my Instagram. You can actually go and see the poster. You can see the boxes of it, because it's really cool. On one side of the box, you get the comic artwork, and then the other side of the box, you get the 3D render close-up to kind of match it, which is pretty interesting. But anyway, this 5-pack includes Iron Man, the Silver Centurion suit, Mockingbird, Tigra, SpiderWoman, and Hank Pym. There are other members of the West Coast Avengers, and I will actually bring some of those out. Like we got Wonder Man, Vision, Scarlet Witch, U.S. Agent, Hawkeye, of course. And then I will be doing a comparison with a couple of different figures. So we had a Silver Centurion Walgreens exclusive Iron Man before that actually had silver in it. So we'll take a look at that. We did get a Julia Carpenter in the Molten Man Build-A-Figure wave, I think it was. I will do a comparison with that. We did get a Tigra before, which was a darker orange. Not a whole lot different between the two figures, basically the same, but this one does have a different hair piece. And then we get a Hank Pym. We haven't gotten that Hank Pym. We got an Ant-Man, but to Scott Lang, it works as a Hank Pym, but I will check that out to see how this head fits on that Ant-Man body. And then we got this Mockingbird. We do have a previous Mockingbird, and I'm just realizing I never pulled that one out of the display to do a comparison. I will get that before we get into the video. I want to try and keep this video as short as I possibly can, so I'm going to try and get through every figure quickly. So if it seems rushed, my apologies ahead of time. But again, I don't want to keep you guys here forever with a super long video or anything, so I will try to get through this as quickly as I can. But here, the West Coast Avengers, let's go ahead and get into it. You know what, I do want to try and show the box. I feel like kind of weird not doing that, because I always do it in every thing. So we got this recreation of this West Coast Avengers comic artwork. They switched around the characters to kind of make it look, but it does look like, you know, straight comic book cover and everything like that. Here on the side is what I was telling you about with the different 3D renders of each of the characters, which is really cool. On the other side of the box, you can see we get the matching comic artwork, which I think is a really nice touch. Again, it is the Earth's Beyond Mightiest Avengers, Beyond Earth's Mightiest, kind of throwback, the Avengers style. So here we see the figure and all the accessories that they come with. I won't go into much detail on the accessories actually in the video, so I'll do that here. So Hank Pym, he just comes with extra hands. So he has a fist for the left, trigger finger for the right, and then two like open like hands that are kind of odd. Julia Carpenter SpiderWoman, she just has an extra pair of hands. On the figure, she has two open hands, and then she comes with a pair of fists. Tigra, again, she comes with the two heads because the retro card figure came with two heads, but again, this head sculpt is the same face that we had gotten before, but it has a different hairpiece, and then we get extra hands, so fists and open hands. And then Mockingbird comes with a pair of grip hands and fists, and then she has the bow staff here, and then she has the two separate pieces, so she separates it, and I can't grab it with one hand. She has the two separate pieces, and you can also combine these to make one, the same as like the Daredevil pieces that we get. These feel like a harder plastic, so they're not super flimsy like we've gotten in the past, so that is a good thing. And then the Silver Centurion Iron Man, we get the non-hinged the non-hinged blaster hands there, and then we get a pair of fists, and then we also have these old school blast effect pieces. We've seen since like some different blast effects which have like the smaller like burst, but we got these old school ones back again. So that is everything with the Avengers box set. Now let's go ahead and get into the figures. Okay, so here we have a look at Bobby Morse Mockingbird, and that looks pretty good. The hair flows out to the side. I'm not usually the biggest fan when they do something like that. I'd prefer the hair to kind of be straight down. But when you get into certain poses, it is going to look cool. It's not necessarily my preference. We get nice shading in the hair to bring out the texture detail, make it look semi-realistic. The photo print on the eyes looks really good. No complaints there. In terms of paintwork, she's got some skin tone flesh there. The suit is a dark blue and white with some silver bands there on her wrists. And then she's got bare legs, and then she's got these blue boots there. Figure looks pretty good. There we got peg hole in the back, some skin tone on the back, both of those peg holes there. So we know that it's a reused upper body. I wish she would have had bicep swivel. I wish she would have had double jointed elbows. Unfortunately, we do not. But, you know, the suit does look good. Nice classic suit to it. I know it's probably going to come up, and I'm going to do it. I don't typically like doing this type of thing, but I will do a head swap. We'll see if this head could fit on this more classic body. So say, like, if she doesn't have the mask on, you have the option. Ooh, does this head not want to come off? Hold on. Yep, nope, that head is not coming off, folks, and I am not going to force it and break it into the point where I do no longer have a original or first Mockingbird figure. So, yeah, his head is not going to come off, and I'm not going to risk breaking the hinge. Yeah, I can't get it. Sorry, guys. So I would have tried the head sculpt, but yeah, not popping off. Sorry about that. Okay, so first up we have Mockingbird. So here we have the previous Mockingbird figure that came in the Red Skull Onslaught Build-A-Figure wave. So you can see much different. This is a much more classic Mockingbird figure. I said Hawkeye as I was reaching to grab the Hawkeye figure. This is the one that came with the Sky Cycle in the Avengers 60th Anniversary program. Same program. So here we have a classic Mockingbird, Bobby Morse, and here classic Clint Barton Hawkeye, newlyweds, as they were married in the West Coast Avengers comic. So there we have the two side by side. So let's get in for a closer look at Mockingbird. Okay, Mockingbird's articulation, she can't look down that much. Her head is on the disc hinge. She can't really look up because the hair is all crazy. Her arm goes straight out to the side that much. You get a full rotation in that arm. Single jointed elbow. We get a swivel at that elbow. She bends just over 90 degrees, as you can see there. Wrists swivel, and they do hinge. All hands are the standard horizontal hinge. She does have extra hands. I forget, she has a straight out hand, and then she also has a fist. I think I forgot to mention that earlier when I was going over the package. Her diaphragm joint, she could tilt to her left that much. She could tilt to her right that much. She can go back quite a bit, which is nice, but coming forward again is hardly anything at all. So straight up like that, and then forward like that. So very, very little swivel at that diaphragm. Legs go out that far apart. She can't kick forward that far, which is really good. The leg goes back ever so slightly. Upper thigh cut in there, a little stiff, but she has that swivel. Pinless knees, which is great. So she get that much bend there at the knee. Not too shabby. She does not have a calf swivel or boot swivel or ankle swivel, anything like that. Foot hinges down quite a bit, as you can see there. Hinge up a lot, ankle pivot, no peg holes at the bottom of the feet, unfortunately. She does have the heeled feet, but getting her to stand is not so much an issue when she doesn't have flimsy legs, so that is good. You do have to really work with it a little bit to balance on those feet. No peg holes does suck a little bit, but it's not as bad as, you know, the previous female figures that we've gotten with feet like that. For her, it's a little bit easier to get her to stand and keep her standing. Okay, so here we have an up-close look at the Tigra figure, and it looks pretty good. Again, it is just a repaint, essentially, of the previous version, as you can see here. The two head sculpts are actually the same, but the paint work on the face can make it look different, and then the hair is different, which really throws it off. But the head sculpts are the same. I cannot see any difference between the two. Yeah, so it's just going to be the deco that really throws it off, and then of course the hair change between the two. But yeah, there we go. Same head sculpt, same body, same everything that we have from the previous Tigra figure, just in a much lighter orange. We do get the interchangeable head sculpt, so we could pop that off. We could pop this one on. And boom, we have the alternate head, the same as the previous version. As you can see, the hair is the same on this one, in fact. So there we go. Paintwork looks all good on mine. No issues there. I'm sure on some there might be issues where it comes to like these bone pieces there and everything. But the figure itself looks pretty good. I like the lighter orange too. It's quite nice. I did actually really like this dark orange because, you know, it was really different and everything. But the lighter orange is definitely a nice touch as well. Okay, so here we have the two Tigra figures side by side, and I'm just having the hardest time getting these two to stand for some reason. I'm not sure why. It's just being such a pain in the ass for me. But as you can see side by side, the stripes are all painted in the same exact spots between the two different figures. And again, the head sculpts, we do get the same head sculpts again with the same paint apps, you know, exactly in the places. But the big difference, of course, is the skin tone or fur tone? Skin tone? Fur? Fur. Fur, right? Yeah, it's the fur. So light orange versus the darker orange there, but again, they are the same figures. You know, she was wearing a brown bikini in this one. This one is a dark blue, so that is a little bit of the difference there, but the stripes are actually like the same color. But yeah, the difference between the two. Okay, so Tigra's articulation, she cannot look up because the hair obviously gets in the way, but the head is on the dumbbell joint, so she can look down a little bit there, full rotation, and then you get some good pivot going on at that neck. The arm you can get to go straight on out like so. You get a full rotation in there. We got the upper bicep swivel, which is nice. Double jointed pinless elbow, which I love when we get that on female figures. You can see that much bend there at the elbow, which is pretty crazy. Wrists swivel and they do hinge. All hands have the standard horizontal hinge, the two open hands as well as the two fists. She could tilt to her left that much. She could tilt to her right that much. She can go back quite a bit, as you can see there. Coming forward is a little bit more than the standard figure, but still not a lot. You get a swivel there at the diaphragm cut. The tail swivels. There's no hinge on the tail, and it does just kind of peg in there, but you can swivel it around kind of and position it in some ways that you would want there. So we have that there. Legs go out that far apart. She can kick forward. Ooh, that's not a whole lot. Is that all it is? She can only kick forward that much there. Leg does not go back at all. You got the upper thigh cut in there. Double jointed pinless knee, which is beautiful there. No calf swivel or anything. Foot hinges all the way down. A little bit of hinge up. Ankle pivot, pegals at the bottom of the feet closer to the toes. So there is her articulation. And it's a pain in the ass to get her to just stand up straight. But if you get her into some crazy poses, watch. Like I'll try to do something that I'm just not very talented at. And then problem is when she can't look up, that's, you know, makes it a little bit difficult. So when you can get her into certain type of poses and things like that, it's going to be easier to get her to stand. But just standing up straight is when, you know, I had a difficult time. Okay, here we have a close-up look at Dr. Hank Pym. As you can see here, it is not really in his Ant-Man persona. It is specifically Hank Pym. Looking at the suit, it looks like we have some reuse from like the Red Skull Dormammu figures. The upper torso is, well, I don't have that Wonder Man figure, but that Wonder Man figure had a plastic or like a rubber overlay, so I think this torso may be new. I think I'd seen some people doing a custom Charles Xavier from the X-Men animated series when he's wearing this, but all in green. So that is pretty cool. The figure, it just has like this orange jumpsuit, you know, black boots and everything like that. Nothing really special going on. Black belt, silver buckle there, black shirt underneath. The Hank Pym head sculpt looks pretty good. There's a little bit of a wash in that hair to bring out some of the details, which is cool. I want to see if this head sculpt is going to fit on the Target exclusive Astonishing Ant-Man figure. Even though that figure is technically based on Scott Lang, it works as a Hank Pym. And as you can see there, bam, the head does fit on there, so you can have your Hank Pym Ant-Man on your display. So that works out quite nice. Let's see if the helmeted head will pop on this suit. And it should, right? So you could also do something weird and crazy like that. Okay, here we have Hank Pym and Ant-Man side by side. This is technically the Target exclusive Scott Lang, but can double as Hank Pym all you want. You can see he is much taller. They are not the same size whatsoever. I feel like the legs on the Hank Pym are a little bit long, or the torso is just a little bit small. But here we have them side by side. They look good. Okay, so Hank Pym's articulation, his head is on a dumbbell joint, so he can look up that much, which is actually pretty good. He could look down that much. And that's actually because the neck itself has its own point of movement. So as you can see, down and kind of forward. Full rotation in that head, you can do some insane pivot going on there to give him some expression. The arms, you can get the shoulder to go kind of straight out, not all the way exactly. And it's pretty stiff. Like, I feel like I got that shoulder stuck in there. Hey, that's kind of careful. They might be cutting in a little bit, so be careful there. Full swivel at that shoulder, upper bicep swivel there, double jointed elbow, and these are those thick arms that came with like Dormammu and Red Skull, and just have the ugliest bend ever. So you get that much bend there, and it's just it's an ugly bend on the elbow. Wrist swivel, and they do hinge, standard horizontal hinge on all of the hands. We have an ab crunch on this guy, but it's fairly useless because he can only crunch forward that much. That's like nothing. He can crunch back that much. That's like nothing. Waist swivel there, very high waist. His belt is way up above his belly button. Legs go out that far apart, which is pretty good. He can kick forward that far, which is really good. Leg goes back ever so slightly, almost not anything. Upper thigh cut in there. Double jointed pinless knee. So you get that much bend there at the knee. Thick pants, so kind of an ugly knee. And I feel like this top knee, that hinge is a little loose. It's not floppy, but it's definitely a little too easy to hinge. But that much bend there. You get a boot swivel in there. Foot hinges all the way down. Hinge up. Ankle pivot. Peg holes at the bottom of the feet. Okay, a close look at the Silver Centurion figure. Again, this is the same as the previous Walgreens exclusive. Not really anything different going on there. As you can see, we have white instead of silver. That is really the difference. But then here on the chest, I actually have a little bit of a blue shade with some glow effect sprayed in there. But other than that, it is the same exact figure. Nothing different. The reds are essentially the same as well. Fairly noticeable difference between the two. But yeah, just white instead of silver. Not really sure why. Maybe comic artwork wise. But there we have it. And then the head sits a little bit lower on there, which is good. But then, just weird things going on there. But the figure itself, again, nothing different. Just white instead of silver. Okay, so here we have the Silver Centurion Iron Man figure next to the Walgreens exclusive actual Silver Centurion Iron Man figure. As you can see, they are the same exact figure. There is no change to it whatsoever, other than some deco in the Unibeam arc reactor spot there. You kind of get some spot paint, but that's it. The head does sit a little bit lower on there too. Like it's probably arguably too high on the Walgreens exclusive. So I think, they kind of corrected that here, but then it's still it's still an odd design that they do it that way because there's like no neck. But it sits lower, and I actually think it does look better. But yeah, white instead of silver. I think, because comic artwork, oftentimes white is used to kind of portray the shine. Perhaps. I don't really know, but it's kind of interesting because now that we have that, we can compare it to the War Machine figure, and now we have both of these suits in white, and it's, yes, kind of odd, but when you have these two together, it actually looks pretty good. Okay, so the Silver Centurion Iron Man can look up only that much. It's kind of weird. He can't really look down, actually. The head is on a dumbbell joint, but it's very lacking in movement, so he can't actually look down, which is a bit crazy. You get the full side to side, and then you can do some crazy pivot going on in there. And then the design of the neck, it gets how you position it can kind of get stuck on the chest. It's really weird. The arm can go straight on out like so. You can do a full rotation in there, and that shoulder pad does rotate with the arm, which is good. We have the upper bicep swivel in there. Double jointed elbow gives us that much bend there, so a little just over 90 degrees. Doesn't really want to stay. They are pinned because this is a reused body mold from a few years ago. Wrists swivel, and they do hinge. The fists have the horizontal hinge. Again, the arc reactor blast hands do not have the hinge at all. They're just straight on out. We got an ab crunch on this guy, so with the ab crunch he can move forward that much. A little limiting. He can go back that much, which is good. Waist swivel in there. Legs go out that far apart. He can't kick forward that far. Doesn't really go back. You got an upper thigh cut in there. Double jointed knee. A little stiff. That much bend there at the knee. Is there no boot? Oh, there is no boot swivel on this guy. I do not remember that. Foot hinges down that much. up that much, ankle pivot there, no swivel at the ankle or anything like that. So a kind of standard articulation for this body type for the Iron Man, which, you know, is very similar to several different Iron Man figures that we had gotten before, starting with like the 80th anniversary Iron Man. But there we go, Silver Centurion. Okay, so here's an up-close look at the Julia Carpenter figure. This is a kind of a new, updated version to this previous one. This new one just looks a whole hell of a lot better. The hair is just very like old school looking and poofy and everything like that compared to the previous one. The color is very different, much lighter skin tone as well, but just better articulated body this time around. One thing on mine though is the spider doesn't seem to be like straight. And I think that's just the way it's painted on the lower torso. Like on the back, it seems to be just fine. But on the front, it seems to like go to the side a little bit, or seems to be a little off center. And that kind of sucks. It's not terrible, but you know, it's not preferred, as you can see there. A little sloppiness on some of the lines. Not that big of a deal. But there we have it. The spider logo itself does look really good, so no complaints there. I will pop this head off. And let's see if we can swap these heads around. I'm not sure if anybody kind of has that preference over on the older head versus the newer head. And I can't seem... I am just not having any luck. Sorry about that, guys. I am just not having any luck with these head sculpts. Oh, there we go. If anybody is interested in this head swap, that works there. And that doesn't look too bad. The head just looks a lot smaller. I don't know if it's the hair... No, the head itself is actually, you know, a much different size. But this doesn't look terrible. Not sure why anybody would, you know, get a new one and then put a head on the old one, but it doesn't really want to fit nicely. But you could do that too, and that's not too bad, except the problem is the body's just not very good. Okay, and the most improved figure goes to Julia Carpenter, SpiderWoman. So we have the two, again, it's a big difference between the two because now we get the full pinless version of the Julia Carpenter and one that has pretty decent movement. The articulation is actually going to be fairly similar, but with the arms, the added bicep swivel, and the double jointed elbows, it makes a big difference. The diaphragm's likely going to be very similar, not going to have a whole lot of difference there. You're not really going to get any more movement in the head because the long hair is just going to really stop it. But as you can see, you know, the suit's essentially the same, but the head sculpts are different. She had much smaller eyes on this previous version, and then the hair was a much darker blonde, as you could see there. Completely different sculpt, completely different heads. But yeah, there we go. So our Julia Carpenter SpiderWoman, and the new legs are so much better because these thin ass legs are always flimsy and hard to get her to stand up, even though I guess mine stands up. There we go. But you know, that's popping her down. But she just stands a little bit more straight up and everything, so it's just a much better figure overall. Okay, so Julia Carpenter, she can't look up because of her hair. The head is on a... Is there a hinge? There is a hinge, so she can't look down that much there. She can somewhat turn side to side. The hair does kind of get in the way. You have to kind of fold it over the shoulders and everything there. The shoulder, you can get to go straight on out like so, which is good. Full rotation in there. We get the upper bicep swivel and the double jointed pinless elbow on a female figure, which is awesome, which I can't... There we go. That much bend there at the elbow, which is awesome. Wrists swivel and they do hinge. The fists and the open hands have the standard horizontal hinge on them. We get the diaphragm cut, so she can tilt to her left that much. She can tilt to her right that much there, which is pretty good. She can go back a fair amount. The hair doesn't actually get in the way, which is good. Forward is hardly anything at all. Again, so straight up and then forward. It's just very little. Swivel at that diaphragm. Legs go out that far apart. She can't kick forward that far, which is very high, which is really good. Leg goes back quite a bit, actually. Upper thigh cut in there. Double jointed pinless knee is a beautiful thing. That much bend there. No calf swivel. Her foot hinges down that much. Up that much. Ankle pivot, peg holes at the bottom of the feet. So there we go. All of the articulation for the West Coast Avengers. Okay, and there we have the West Coast Avengers Amazon exclusive box set. I think the Mockingbird figure is definitely going to be the highlight of the wave. And then next on will be the Hank Pym figure, because we don't have just a straight Hank Pym figure. Silver Centurion and Iron Man, we already have that, or a lot of folks probably already have it, so it's not going to be as needed for a lot of folks. Julia Carpenter, same thing, we had one. Tigra, same thing, we've had one. So Hank Pym and Mockingbird, or this version of Mockingbird, would be the only new figures, but it's still a good overall well-rounded box set in my opinion. We want to look at like the West Coast Avengers, and I brought out a bunch of figures to kind of do this, and I don't really like bringing out a bunch of figures because then I have to put them all back. So we can throw in someone like the Scarlet Witch, or we can throw in somebody like the Vision, and I'm scared he's going to fall over because his feet aren't really planted nicely. And then we can do things like Wonder Man. We can add him in there, and then we can add in folks like where is he? We can add in folks in like U.S. Agent, or we can also throw in, of course, and I showed this earlier with Mockingbird, Hawkeye, Clint Barton. He is the actual leader of the West Coast Avengers. Poor Vision in the back, you can't really see him. There we go. So we have West Coast Avengers. Lots of Avengers figures this year. Lots of West Coast Avengers figures being added. So that is pretty cool. The White Vision and Scarlet Witch were on those retro cards that actually specifically said West Coast Avengers, which is cool. So a lot of figures. But you guys let me know down in the comments below. What do you think of this West Coast Avengers set? What do you think of the West Coast Avengers figures in general? How do they all look together? Let me know in the comments below. If you guys like this video, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Hit that join button and become a channel member and support the channel. I really appreciate it. And as always, guys, thank you for watching.